Yo, what's up? Welcome to Kind of Funny Games Daily for Monday, July 26, 2021. I'm one of your hosts, Blessing Adeoye Jr. Joining me is Tim fucking Yetis.
Bless, two things. First off, it feels good to be back with you on a Monday. You know what
Yeah,
I
it
mean? Me and
does.
Janet were holding it down last week, but this is how things need to be. If it's a Monday, you know that it's Bless time. You know that it's Tim time. Let's go. Thing number two,
Yes.
I love more than anything that because it's a Monday. What does that mean, Bless? You got to rock the polo. You got
Oh,
to
of
do it. We've
course.
been talking about it. Bless got his fresh cut. He's been trying to bring back the polo. And when I say try, I take that back. He successfully has done it. And this shirt right now is proof of that. I love that
Hell
you're
yeah.
out here looking like a Ness alt in Smash Brothers. It's fucking fantastic.
That's my favorite thing about my polo collection specifically is that a good 90% of them are striped. And so every episode now I come through looking like a different Nest costume, like you clicked an alternate on Smash Brothers. And I'm down with it. The only thing I'm
Oh,
missing
yeah.
is a yo-yo and a bat. But maybe I'll
Hmm.
bring those I'll bring those in at some point. But yeah, it's nice to be
Exactly.
back on a Monday. I've taken like 3 Mondays off in a row because we had that Monday off for 4th of July.
Hmm.
The one after that, I got one of my eyes was bitten by a snake, and then the week after that, my other eye was bitten by a snake. So I had to take 2 Mondays off in a row. But it's nice to be back. I've missed hosting with you, Tim, of course. Kind of Funny
Hmm.
Games Daily, the dynamic duo. Don't tell Greg or Andy I said that.
Exactly.
And of
Exactly.
course, I get to see you, and I get to see your fresh bomber jackets. That's what I love the most is that me and you now have, I think, a good stylized dynamic where
Yes.
you bring in the bomber jackets, you bring in the Tim beanie.
Oh,
You
the
got
the
that look.
beanie the beanie is always the sign of laziness or coldness. Today,
Oh yeah, mixture of
laziness.
both.
It's
Okay, maybe
laziness.
it's laziness. It's laziness. It's laziness. But then I bring in the polo. We look like we're showing up to very different events, but it all works because it's you and me. It's you
I
and
love it.
me.
I love it, man. Let's talk about some video games.
Let's talk about some video game news, Tim. Enough about style. Today's stories include an update on the Activision Blizzard happenings, big sales numbers for Mortal Kombat, and more because this is Kind of Funny Games Daily. Each and every weekday at 10 a.m. live right here on twitch.tv/Kind of Funny Games. We run you through the nerdy news you need to know about. If you're watching live, you can correct us when we get stuff wrong by going to kindoffunny.com/you're wrong. If you don't want to watch live, you can watch later, youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, roosterteeth.com, or you can listen later on podcast services around the globe by searching for Kind of Funny Games Daily. To be part of the show, to patreon.com/Kind of Funny Games, where bronze members or above get to write in, and silver members or above get the show ad free with the exclusive daily post show. Housekeeping for you, we got a new Kind of Funny podcast episode that went up this morning titled Planning the Fast and Furious Theme Park with Mika Burton. Tim, is that as exciting as it sounds?
Oh, it's fantastic. If y'all don't know Mika Burton, oh my God, you need to listen to this podcast and find out how much of a sweetheart she is and how fun she is to hang out with. She's been a friend of ours for many years, and I'm happy to be able to share her with the best friends that might not know her. And if you do know her, you already know how much of a pleasure she is. So go check that episode out for sure.
Hell yeah, go check that out. And then over the weekend, you got a new episode of the Kind of Funny Xcast featuring Double Fine's Tim Schafer, where the crew talks all about that Psychonauts 2. I believe they give their impressions, and then later on is the interview. And so go check that out. You can catch all of that over on youtube.com/kind of funny, youtube.com/kind of funny games, and on podcast services around the globe. And then more for housekeeping. Tim, was this you that added this? Help the homie Mega
Did
Ran.
I did add this, Kevin? If you could please bring up this tweet, I would appreciate it very much. Yesterday, some really sad shit happened. The homie Megaran, who has performed at Kind of Funny Live 2, Kind of Funny Live 3, been on We Have Cool Friends, Kind of Funny Podcast, Gamescast, Colin and Greg Live. Like he is an OG beyond even. Like he goes back with us, and we have all been really good friends with him and a big fan of his for a very long time. He was about to go on tour for the first
Oh
time
no.
since the pandemic hit and all this stuff. As soon as he's ready to leave town, car broken into. They took everything, his laptop, the merch, clothes, all of it. So he's going
Fuck.
through a really
That's
fucking
fucked.
hard time right now. Obviously, this really sucks. If you have the means at all, check out this thread. I just tweeted it, or I quote tweeted it, so you can go to my Twitter to find it, or you can just go straight to at Mega Ran, Megaran. Check it out and support him any way you can. He has a link to his Venmo, PayPal, all that stuff. But then on top of that, he has his Kickstarter there for his new album that he's working on to kind of offset of just like, hey, like people are being very generous now, which is fantastic. But the other thing he put in there is even just a simple link to his Bandcamp where you can just buy some of his music. Personally, I think that would be the best way to support him right now is send some dollars his way, get some super dope music out of it. everybody wins, everybody gets something, but he's been super, super, super supportive of us. So it's the least we could do to at least give him the shout out here. But
Yeah,
damn,
damn.
this is
Yeah,
fucked up.
that really sucks. Best wishes to Mega Ran, and yeah, I can attest that Mega Ran has some dope ass music, and so if you have the chance to check out like one of the projects from him I like a lot, I believe it's called Black Materia, where
Oh
it's a
hell
bunch
yeah.
of remixes to Final Fantasy soundtrack songs, and it's phenomenal. And so this sucks, especially as a small music artist, right? Like when you get something like your laptop stolen, that is your work is on there. If you, especially if you're going on tour, your soundtracks, your instrumentals, all that stuff is probably on there, and so that is a struggle. And so yeah, go help out any way you can. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Donovan Harkness and Blackjack. Today we're brought to you by Away, Mainly Bands, and Amazon Music, but I'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin with what is, and forever will be, the Roper Report. It's time for some news. We have 5 stories today.
Baker's dozen.
That was phenomenal, Kevin. Starting with our number one, we got an update on the Activision Blizzard happenings. Of course, we've been talking about this over the course of the last week. I believe it started with Tim Tam Thursday, where you guys talked about the breaking news of Activision Blizzard being sued by the state of California. We talked a little bit about it more on Friday between me and Greg, as we got some of the internal statements from folks over at Activision Blizzard. Now, today, we have a few more follow-ups that come in the form of different stories that I am combining into one story. And so I'm going to be jumping back and forth from 3 different sources, starting from Tyler Wilde and Stephen Messner at PC Gamer, where they put up an article over the weekend titled Activision Blizzard Employees Denounce Corporate Statements. I've condensed this article, and I definitely want people to go check out the longer article on PC Gamer because they give more examples and more details. But I'll start it off by reading here. Over 20 current Activision Blizzard employees, including World of Warcraft lead game designer Jeremy Fiesel, have publicly criticized the company's response to the sexual harassment and discrimination lawsuit filed against it earlier this week. Some World of Warcraft developers also stopped work today, quote, in solidarity with the women that came forward, Fiesel said. The suit, filed by a California government agency, alleges that women at the company have faced, quote, constant sexual harassment, end quote, and discrimination, especially women of color. On social media, dozens of former employees expressed support for the stories told in the lawsuit, and, in some cases, corroborated details. Now, over 20 current Activision Blizzard employees have expressed public disapproval of Activision Blizzard's response to the suit, with dozens more showing support by retweeting their coworkers' statements. Quote, many of us will not be working today in solidarity with the women that came forward, wrote lead game designer Jeremy Fiesel. Quote, the statements made by Activision Blizzard do not represent us. We believe women, and we will continue to strive to do better and hold others accountable. Actions speak louder than words, end quote. The World of Warcraft team has been, quote, going through a mix of outrage and sorrow and hurt, said narrative designer Steve Denuser, who went on to say that he's interested in fixing the company and industry, not corporate bullshit statements. Like I said earlier, I condensed the article. The article gives you more examples of more employees speaking out and denouncing the internal statements that we got from Activision Blizzard corporate and higher ups and all that stuff that we talked about on Friday. Following that, I want to bring in a statement put out by a former Blizzard exec. I'm pulling from an article from Marie D'Alessandri at gamesindustry.biz. Former Activision Blizzard executives have reacted to last week's lawsuit against the company for harassment and discrimination against women. In a statement, Blizzard co-founder and former president and CEO Mike Morhaime said he's ashamed and apologized for failing women working at Blizzard. Quote, I've read the full complaint against Activision Blizzard and many of the other stories. It is all very disturbing and difficult to read. I am ashamed. It feels like everything I thought I stood for has been washed away. What's worse, but even more important, real people have been harmed, and some women had terrible experiences. I was at Blizzard for 28 years. During that time, I tried very hard to create an environment that was safe and welcoming for people of all genders and backgrounds. I knew that it was not perfect, but clearly we were far from that goal. The fact that so many women were mistreated and were not supported means we let them down. In addition, we did not succeed in making it feel safe for people to tell their truth. It is no consolation that other companies have faced similar challenges. I wanted us to be different, better, end quote. Later on in this letter, he also mentions, quote, I realize that these are just words, but I wanted to acknowledge the women who had awful experiences. I hear you, I believe you, and I'm sorry to have let you down, end quote. That's the second source I wanted to pull from. This third and last source I want to pull from is Kotaku, where they put up an article about how Activision Blizzard's social media empire has been silent for quite a few days now. It reads like this. This is from Ian Walker. Social media accounts related to Activision Blizzard and its various properties have stopped posting following California's lawsuit against the major video game conglomerate going public. Since news broke Wednesday that the state of California is suing Activision Blizzard over an alleged widespread abuse of its female employees, official Twitter feeds for Call of Duty, Crash Bandicoot, Diablo, Overwatch, World of Warcraft, and many more have gone completely silent. As these pages regularly update with new content and engage with fans, many see their going dark as an obvious attempt to stay out of the spotlight and avoid more reputational damage. Activision and Blizzard's own Twitter accounts, as well as those for subsidiaries like Infinity Ward, King, Raven Software, Sledgehammer Games, and Treyarch, have also taken apparent vows of silence. Tim, there was a lot there. Where do you want to start? Do you have any thoughts?
Well, I mean, on top of this too, there's a ton of different developers and just people at Activision and Blizzard in different teams coming forward on Twitter and other places as well, essentially saying that like work is not happening right now. Everybody is just, trying to figure this stuff out. And on top of that, just like, different forms of protesting, different forms of not putting work into this World of War or Warcraft situation, or World of Warcraft. But I mean, I can't say this enough. This is all horrible stuff, and we need to talk about it, and we need to like really look and listen to the stories coming forth and kind of pick apart these statements being made and to really look at them and question like where it went wrong and how to fix it for the next time and all of that. Like this, I'm not surprised that the social media has stopped for them. And I think that goes down to so many different levels. There are so many people working on these teams, specifically the social media teams, that have to deal with all the backlash of this. And, that sucks for them. Like that sucks that like they are now put in this position because of these bad people making bad decisions for so long systemically that it is just such a problem. There's no getting out of it. And so that affects everybody working at the studio, even the teams that are innocent of this garbage nonsense, right? But the fact of the matter is, like, this is not unique to Activision. This is not unique to Ubisoft. This is happening at every single company in the world from every level to some extent. And we all just need to look at that and like listen to the people around us. And the more that this stuff happens, or it's not that it's happening more, it's been happening the same amount. The more that it's being talked about and exposed for the problem that it is, that is the only way that there's going to be any type of shift towards change. I don't know what the answers are to that, but I do know that every day that goes by is going to be better than the last because more people are going to be held accountable and more people are going to hold people accountable to create this better future. But where we're at right now is it's very dark and it's very unfortunate. And it pains me that months ago it was Ubisoft that every day there was some news story coming out and then there was updates and then there was responses and then there was responses to the statements and then there's it just keeps going and going and going, and now it's this Activision Blizzard thing, and it's like this sucks because we're going to be sitting here a week from now still talking about these updates as they come back and forth of just like, well, this happened and this happened and this happened. It's like, but that's important, and it's like that's just where we're at right now. And I don't know. I feel like I'm not really adding anything to this conversation, but I do think that it is key to keep having it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, right? Regarding adding anything to the conversation is that, these are some of the most difficult conversations I think to have on Games Daily, because it is very much not based on what we have to add to it in terms of our own opinion or our own take, right? Like this isn't, oh hey, Ubisoft is working on a Star Wars game where me and you can have plenty of opinions about that because we know we know Star Wars and we know Ubisoft, and there are many opinionated takes that we can have regarding things surrounding something like that. Whereas when it's a story like this, right? Like I think for us both, right, as dudes who are working in this industry, one, we are the people who are the least affected, and so I in situations like this, I prefer to sit and listen and hear what people have to say that are actually going through it, and try to spotlight women in the industry who have way more insight and way more experience and way more that we can learn from in terms of getting something out of it, right? And so I think one, that makes it hard, but then two, right, like there's not much to add to it in terms of, yeah, this is all fucked. Like I think that's all there really is to it in terms of uh in terms of what this means for one, Activision Blizzard, how this reflects the rest of the industry, and how this tunes us in into what the rest of the industry goes through in terms of structural issues and issues of leadership and how that leadership abuses their own power. It's an eye-opening thing in terms of that. And so like for so much of this, for me, it is informational and eye-opening, and it's worth talking about and talking through so that we can be able to put a spotlight on this for our audience and also for ourselves. But yeah, it's also a difficult thing to just talk about regarding the social media stuff, right? Like to go back to it a little bit, the I think the benefit of being able to talk about this for days in a row, because this is now the third day for Kind of Funny Games Daily, where our headline will be something Activision Blizzard related in regards to all of this. Being able to talk about it 3 days in a row gives us the opportunity to talk about or be able to pick out certain details that we're able to miss, or certain nuances that we're able to miss before, and perspectives, right? Because it is such a big conversation to have, and there's so much to pick apart with it. But yeah, like I'm totally with you as far as folks who might be working on the social media teams, or folks who might be working on the dev teams, or folks who might wanted to reveal something. We talked about on Friday a little bit that, apparently there was supposed to be some sort of thing revealed for, I forget which game it was. Might be like an Overwatch update or something along those lines, kindoffunny.com/you're wrong. And they had to put a lid on that because, right now is not the time for Activision Blizzard to be trying to announce shit or trying to promo shit, because all eyes are on them for all this bullshit that's happening. I mentioned it on Friday that it's not just your Kotakus and IGNs that are reporting on this. You go and you search Activision Blizzard on Google and you tab over to the news section, and you have articles from Forbes, you have New York Times, you have all these bigger outlets reporting on it that, wouldn't usually give a fuck about the inner workings of the video games industry. But because this news is so big, and because there's so much to dig into, right? Like, the spotlight is on them right now, and they can't adequately they can't adequately promo shit, which, for the most part, who cares about them promoting games right now, because all the things going on. But then also, it is keeping people who are actually doing good works at their job, right? Keeping people who are probably passionate in what they do and wanting to do good work and all this stuff, even keeping them from being able to do what they do, right? Because like uh Joe or Stacy or whoever who is working in social media at Activision, or is working in marketing or whatever at Activision, is now like, cool, now I have to be responsible for this bullshit because an exec that's way higher up than me decided to be shitty. And for me, when I think of these stories, I always try to think dev first, like worker first, and what they might be going through with this stuff, and how the positions that they might be in. And right now, they're in a very shitty position. Like I can't imagine being like on the worker level at Activision Blizzard right now. Meanwhile, all this bullshit is going on. I would be furious and I would be upset because of everything. And yeah, like I keep coming back to this, but it really is the easiest way to sum it up, is that it all sucks. Like it all really does suck.
It really does suck. And I can say this from my own experience in the last couple of years. This is all stuff that is not new by any means. This has been going on since the dawn of time, and is unfortunately going to continue till the end of time. But it is our job to try to stop that from being true, and to minimize it as much as humanly possible. And I think that every single person's role in these stories and in this situation is different, and you need to really take a look at inside yourself and how you're going to learn from this and listen and react and change your own behavior. Nobody's perfect, and sure, you might be asked to be perfect, but like, you just need to try your best to try to take this information in and decide what you're going to do with it. And if your reaction is to put your arm up and get defensive about it, that might be okay in that moment, but then you need to reflect on you doing that later and ask yourself, is that the person you want to be? Or do you want to be somebody that is more empathetic? I think that empathy is the most important word that I've learned in my adult life. I knew it when I was younger. I've heard it. I knew it, like I understood what it meant, but I feel like it wasn't until I turned maybe 25 or so that it really sat with me, of understanding what it means to think about someone else's perspective and think about what they are going through and how different that is from you and how it doesn't need to be a competition one way or another or who had it harder or who has this or whatever. It is just about just don't worry about you. Worry about them for this instant, right? Think that through. And time after time, that has made me change my opinions on the way I speak, the way I act, just the way I think about certain things, and the way that I am triggered by certain words coming forward. In the chat, I don't want to call them out by name, but somebody says, Tim, you're making a massive generalization. There's no sexual harassment at every workplace. You can't know that. The thing is, there is. And that's the problem, is that sexual harassment doesn't necessarily mean the worst of the worst of what that could mean. It could be something all the way down to just speaking to a woman differently than you would speak to a man just because she's a woman. And this is something that I know I've been guilty of so many times in my life. And it's just like dumb little things of even just like speaking nicer to them. Using words like hun, not that I do that, but not that I've ever done that, but like it's things like that it's like, sure, is that sexual harassment? I don't need to get into the details of all that. My point is there is systematic problems in how we act towards people that the last couple of years have just put a giant light on to be like, hey, I know that this has been normal for so long, but we need to really stop that because it shouldn't be. And we need to start fixing all that stuff. So to me, that is the importance of all of this right now, is really everybody finding their own place in these stories and to try to figure out what their part is in making the world a better place for the future. Because we can't change the past. That's all been done. But we all can change the future. And every single one of us has the power to be just a little bit better or a lot better. And all of that will lead to, hopefully, a future where we're not getting these stories from the big game developers. We're not getting these stories from the small game developers. Hopefully, it becomes a rarity, not the expectation.
Yes, we talked a little bit about this on Friday, and Tim, I'm curious to know what your perspective is on this. What do you think our role is in all of this as people who are part of games media, both on the YouTuber side of things, but then also just I like to view us as somewhat traditional in terms of how we view quote unquote media, right? Like I've seen quite a few smaller outlets put out statements about how they are, for the time being, they're not going to cover Activision Blizzard games, right? Like, seen plenty of other outlets not do that. Where do you land in terms of how we as Kind of Funny react to all this?
I mean, there's multiple layers to that, obviously, right? Because I have my own personal thoughts, and then we have our thoughts as a team and as a entire group, of which we're all entitled to our points of views, and we try to have active conversations as a group to decide things like this, and whenever somebody feels uncomfortable at something, we come forward and have a conversation and go from there. Personally, my thoughts on this are we need to just act just like I just spent the last 5 minutes going off on a rant about, just like really thinking about what is our position in this and how can we best help and how can we best go forward. There's no one size fits all answer. And I think any action you take has an opposite reaction in a bunch of different ways. So it really isn't about like, oh, well, these people are doing this, so everyone should be doing this. It's like, no, what is your place in the industry? What is your place? Not even like, I don't even want to use the words industry. This is a people thing. This is about being better about people and being better to people and helping other people get educated on how to do that. And personally, I feel like things like this, what we're doing, having these conversations, is our best use of our platform to do that and to make steps and to move forward. In terms of boycotting games and all that stuff, I definitely think that there is a ton of value in that. And I do think that makes a lot of sense for certain people. Personally, I don't think that type of thing makes sense on the level that we use our time and build our platform for where we're at. But that doesn't mean I'm right about that. That just means that's how I feel about it, and that's how I understand the kind of everything that goes into what we're doing and how we're pushing forward. But that's just because I also know a lot of devs and I know a lot of different perspectives. And again, there's not a right and wrong when it comes to a lot of these decisions. It's like there are right and wrong aspects to every decision made. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's where I personally am at this moment. That can change at any time. There is no consistency, and I hate when people try to throw, oh, well, you're a hypocrite. You said this about this, you said that about that. It's like, well, every situation's different. And on top of that, even if they're similar situations, they're happening at different times. So we're dealing with them differently.
Yeah, like if let's next week we decided like, hey, actually we're gonna stop playing Warzone or whatever the decision would be, right? Like that is all about like an evolving I think process and us adapting as you go and like us growing and understanding like what is the right move right now, right? Like what is the most adequate way to use our platform. And I'm with you that I really appreciate Games Daily as a platform because it does give us a chance to sit and just chat about this for 20 minutes and really use this platform to break down what all is going on and give our perspective on it and speak out the best we can. Whereas we have other platforms, we do other things, but being able to have this as an outlet, I think works pretty well. But yeah, I do also want to say like kudos to all the folks at Activision Blizzard who are speaking out, using their voices and all that stuff. And I'm sure we're going to continue to talk about this story in days and weeks to come. And so we'll continue to stay tuned on this. But for now, Tim, story number 2, we have breaking news, Tim, that I think you're going to be very interested in. This comes from Variety as an exclusive, an article written by Joe Otterson. Pokemon live action series is in early development at Netflix from Lucifer's Joe Henderson. Yeah. A new Pokemon series is in early development at Netflix, Variety has learned exclusively from sources. As the project is still in its early days, no details are available about the plot. However, sources say that Joe Henderson is attached to write and executive produce. Henderson currently serves as co-showrunner and executive producer on the popular Netflix series Lucifer, which is preparing to air.
Pokemon,
what a transfer.
Lucifer.
He's like, I've got so much experience doing Lucifer. I can take on Pokemon, no problem. Pikachu, the devil, what's the difference? Which is preparing to air its 6th and final season at the streamer. Sources also say that the project would be a live-action series akin to the Detective Pikachu film starring Ryan Reynolds and Justice Smith that was released in 2019. Reps for Netflix and Henderson did not immediately respond to Variety's request for comment. The move to develop an original Netflix Pokemon series comes as the streamer has made itself the home to multiple. Oh no, I'm getting ads on this page. Hold on. Let me scroll back. Multiple existing Pokemon shows, including Pokemon Indigo League and Pokemon Journeys, among others. Netflix has also been making a strong push into anime in recent years, having previously announced original series based on Far Cry, Splinter Cell, and Terminator. Netflix has been moving into more live action adaptations of anime titles as well, including the upcoming Cowboy Bebop and One Piece live action shows. In addition to his work on Lucifer, Henderson is currently developing a series adaptation of the comic book Shadecraft at Netflix, which was announced in March. Henderson penned the comic, working alongside artist Lee Garbett. Henderson is co-writing the pilot of that project with Georgia Lee, with both also executive producing. Garbett will produce. Henderson is also known for his work on shows such as 11/22/63 at Hulu and Graceland and White Collar at USA Network. He is repped by the Cartel, which I assume is the name of the company and not the actual cartel. The Pokemon franchise as a whole has become a worldwide phenomenon since first launching in 1995. The franchise now encompasses multiple television shows, films, video games, and the trading card game, books, manga, comics, and much more. On the live-action front, Detective Pikachu proved to be a box office success upon its release. The film grossed over $430 million worldwide on a reported budget of $150 million. Tim, motherfucking Gettys, I know you love Pokemon. I know you love this type of Pokemon on-screen adaptation.
Yep.
How do you feel about all this?
Extremely, extremely, extremely excited. I will believe it when I see it, but I said that about Detective Pikachu and it ended up happening. And that's the thing is when they first announced Detective Pikachu as being made into a movie, Lionsgate backing it, all this, I was just like, this sounds like a lie. This sounds so truly bizarre. And Ryan Reynolds is attached. What? How is this going to make sense? And it was so much better than I could have ever imagined. They really did a good job of making it less about Detective Pikachu, the game, and more about the Pokemon universe as a whole. I wish they went a little further with it, but hey, I'm a 32-year-old man looking to a legitimate children's property for more than they're trying to offer. So that's on me for sure. Having said that, I do think that there's a lot of potential here. And I wonder what the show actually is going to be. The idea of a live action series kind of taking the actual storyline of a core Pokemon game, like let's just say Red and Blue, and going through getting the gyms and all that stuff, like that could be extremely cool as a series. And I think that it doesn't work as a movie. And that's been something that I've always been struggling to kind of figure out in my head of like, what would that look like? It would need to be like a trilogy. And I just don't feel like that's the type of thing, that story that would work in a, let's say, 6 years to finish arc, right?
Yeah.
Minimum, if you're talking about the a movie of like 3 movies going through time, getting the main character to the Elite Four and all that stuff. My other thing there though is like, how do you make that special and make sense and feel like it's equal to the anime? But in live action form for a different audience, right? If you're doing a live action thing on Netflix, you're trying to get a more mainstream appeal to this already established popular brand, right? That's why they made the Death Note movie. They tried to Americanize it. And of course, that didn't work. Because that didn't work, that doesn't mean this is not going to work. There have been examples of things working. And I think that Netflix has proven with shows like The Witcher that they can take properties, book, game, otherwise, and turn them into successful seasons of television that are seen as premier television. With the Pokemon brand, Detective Pikachu proved that Pokemon can work in live action. Will this have that type of budget? Will they be able to go as big as like we'd all hope they can and we want them to? Probably not, but hey, I'm stoked about this.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm stoked for it too. In a pre-Detective Pikachu world, I would read the story and go, "That's never gonna actually happen. They're not gonna finish it. It's gonna be abandoned. That sounds impossible." But after getting Detective Pikachu and seeing what that looks like, and knowing that a decision from Netflix to greenlight a live-action Pokemon probably comes directly from seeing Detective Pikachu, seeing it be executed, and seeing the numbers on it, right? Like going back to that Variety article, the film grossed over $430 million worldwide on a reported budget of $150 million.
Now, here's the thing. That's actually not that great. Like this article here is, I mean, a profit's a fucking profit, but this article is kind of like putting some rose tinted glasses on those numbers, because like Detective Pikachu, when it came out, it wasn't seen as the runaway hit people expected it to be. And there was a lot going into that. It came out within weeks of 2 movies in particular, Aladdin, and Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that got in the way there to make that number not what it potentially could have been. But I guarantee they were looking at that, hoping to cross that 600 million mark for the type of movie that it was.
But even for Netflix, I'm sure you look at that and you go, okay, well, this is possible and this is a feasible thing. And we're looking at Pokemon, right? Pokemon, one of the most successful, recognizable media franchises, period. Like you have their parades where they got Pikachu just floating out there, just doing their Pikachu thing.
Doing the damn thing.
And there is so much value and potential for that. And for Netflix, I'm sure you look at that and you go, cool, what if we did 10 episodes, and we don't have to go all Detective Pikachu with it. We can maybe, in terms of CGI, right, like limit it to maybe like you see 8 Pokemon in an episode. Like we can pull that off, right? That'll take dynamically lower budget to pull off. I think there are certain things you look at and you take from that, and you kind of you think about how you can extrapolate that into a smaller scoped series and go, okay, like we can start to figure this out because we're Netflix and we can go for it in certain ways, right? Maybe not all the way up to Detective Pikachu, but you can maybe make a series out of that. And I think that would be a successful thing. Like I would totally watch a live action Pokemon series, even if it wasn't a straight up Red and Blue thing, right? Even if it was kind of like if it was like a Detective Pikachu thing where it's more about living in the world of Pokemon and it's just Joe Schmo who owns a Chansey and his tales through this Pokemon world, I'd still watch that, right? I think there are plenty of things you can do with that IP and franchise in a live action show that could be fun and interesting. And I'd be totally down for it.
So while that's true, It's time we just get them to commit and to just do it. It's like the whole, oh, just live it in the world of Pokemon. Sure, that's cool. We've seen that now a couple times. And it's even on the other side of like the console RPG thing. It's like, we want a console RPG Pokemon. And it's like, we got a couple on the GameCube and they weren't what we wanted. They were just like, oh, you're a different type of person in this Pokemon world. Still great games, still a lot of fun, but it's not the thing that we want and expect. And I think an important thing to keep in mind here is this is Netflix and this is them doing it for a reason. It's not just that Pokemon is popular. It's that Pokemon is popular on their platform. The Pokemon Indigo League, which is the first couple seasons of the original Pokemon anime, is office status in terms of people just watch it on repeat, and like doesn't matter what your age is. There is little kids watching it, and there's the old.
Dude, I'm one of those people. Every now and then I go through and I watch the the Sabrina gym episode in the next episode where it goes and finds the haunter or whatever. Like
the spoon.
With the spoon,
Bending the spoon. Oh my god!
Really weird stuff goes down in that episode because Sabrina also shrinks down Ash and his friends to like tiny doll size, and it was very freaky as a kid to watch that episode.
Sabrina's so cool.
Fucked me up a little bit, but here's the thing I'll propose to him. We got Detective Pikachu is a live action Pokemon movie, which I would say was like an unexpected move, which after the fact you can see how it makes sense. This Variety article points to Pokemon live action series early development, no details about plot or any sort of thing. What are the chances that there's another Pokemon game or platform that they would adapt similar to Detective Pikachu? Like, is there anything like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon comes to mind? No. I feel like that'd be a weird one to do, but are there other things that are outside of that mainline Pokemon that would fit in the way a Detective Pikachu would fit?
So I got a kind of cheating answer, but it is the right answer, everybody. I hope that you're prepared for this. So the thing that they should adapt here in some form or another is the original Pokemon manga. I don't know if you ever read this, Bless, but it is the story of Red and Blue, but it is way more story based. Where it's not just like, oh, here's Ash, Misty, and Brock going city to city and like running into a bunch of random ass side quests that always kind of feel like filler until you get to the gym battles. It was way more like every single person they met felt like it really was building this like world. And Ash had a team that he was building like you do in the games, where he had 6 Pokemon that were kind of weird. Like one of them was like a Poliwhirl. It's like not like the ones you would necessarily expect that would be on his team. And then they would go through and like, there was some real dark moments, and like sometimes Pokemon would just die, and sometimes like gym leaders were like not nice, like they were mean people.
Was it when you mentioned Pokemon would just die, or is this a reference to did the Charmander did his flame go out finally in the manga?
I don't remember, but I vividly in my mind see I think it was like an Arbok that got like cut in half, and you see his like inside, like you see the inside parts of it, but like. And again, I just remember being a little kid reading this, being blown away, like, oh my God, like this is the coolest way to tell the Pokemon story. If they could adapt that into a Netflix show, oh my Lord, that would just be the coolest thing ever.
That sounds awesome. You sold me. My suggestion, Pokemon Pinball. Give me a Pokemon Pinball live action series. Let me see how that works out.
I love that game. Rumble Pack on the Game Boy Color.
Dude, shout out to that. Remember, everybody, you can go over to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames where you can get the show ad-free. And speaking of ads, let us tell you about our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Away. Away is a modern lifestyle brand that creates thoughtful products for every traveler and every kind of trip. They started with the perfect suitcase, crafted with features that make travel more seamless. And now, when travel looks more different than ever before, you can count on Away's range of suitcases, bags, and accessories whenever you take that next trip. Here at Kind of Funny, we travel a lot, so every little thing that can make that experience better and easier, we're gonna look for, and Away has done that tenfold. Every suitcase comes with an interior organization system that is super handy, and a TSA approved combination lock can keep all of your belongings safe. There's a 100-day trial on everything Away makes, so if you don't like it, you can return it, no questions asked. Start your 100-day trial and shop the entire Away lineup of travel essentials, including their best-selling suitcases at awaytravel.com/KFGD. That's awaytravel.com/KFGD. Next up, shout out to Amazon Music. If you're looking for a ready lineup of binge-worthy podcasts plus free streaming music, you have to check out Amazon Music. Amazon Music has more than 10 million free podcast episodes to listen to, including this show and all of Kind of Funny's other podcasts. You can go check out and review. It's fantastic stuff. No matter what you're listening to, you can even go hands-free with Alexa. You can get the app and enjoy free listening anywhere on all your favorite devices. There's no credit card or subscription required. Amazon Music isn't just for listening to podcasts. They have thousands of music stations and top playlists to stream for free. If you've never tried Amazon Music, what are you waiting for? You're going to love it as much as I do and as much as my bro, Cool Greg, does. Start listening for free today. Head over to amazon.com/KFGD. That's amazon.com/KFGD to stream thousands of music stations and over 10 million podcast episodes for free. Amazon.com/KFGD. And finally, shout out to Manly Bands. Guys, for the better part of their lives, our better halves have been fantasizing about the perfect wedding ring. For us, not so much, and jewelry stores clearly think the same thing. Manly Bands is here to rescue you from an otherwise hellish band buying experience. Manly Bands offers you and your hand the freedom to look how you want it to in just about every type of earthly material imaginable, and even from space. Yeah, Kevin is all about this stuff. There's some really cool ones. One of my really good friends, Danny, actually has one of these, and it's beautiful. I love the amount of color options there are. I love the amount of material options there are. Check them out. Really attractive wedding bands here. To get started, order the Manly Ring Sizer from Manly Bands to ensure that your ring will fit perfectly during work and play. While there might be a 50% chance of your marriage working out, damn, there's a 100% chance that you're gonna love your band. It's dark, but hey, stats are stats. To order your Manly Band and get 21% off plus a free silicone ring, go to manlybands.com/KFGD. That's manlybands.com/KFGD for 21% off. Manly Bands, the best damn rings, period.
Tim, let's talk about some unit sales. Story number 3, Mortal Kombat 11 sells more than 12 million copies. This is from Wesley Yanpool at Eurogamer. Mortal Kombat 11 has sold more than 12 million copies, Warner Brothers Games has announced. The gory fighting game hit 8 million copies sold in October. To put the 12 million sales figure into context, Mortal Kombat X, which came out in April 2015, ended up as NetherRealm's best-selling game with almost 11 million copies sold. Total Mortal Kombat franchise sales are now at 73 million on console, the publisher said in a note to press issued this afternoon. The original Mortal Kombat game launched in 1992. And on top of that, I want to pull from Daniel Ahmad on Twitter at actually, you know how to pronounce this. Is it Shuge?
Yeah, Shuge EX.
Shuge EX. They tweeted out this morning and said, for reference, Mortal Kombat in this franchise sales, right, is at 73 million units. Smash Brothers at 65.1 million units as of March 31st, 2021. Tekken is at 51 million units as of April 2021. And then Street Fighter is at 46 million units as of March 31st, 2021. And that's talking about now the best-selling fighting game franchises. Very impressive for Mortal Kombat. 12 million units is a lot of copies.
12 million is a lot for an extremely high quality game, man. I cannot shout out NetherRealm enough for what they do in fighting games. Like, it is incredibly special. It is AAA ass production. Whether or not you're a fan of fighting games, playing through the campaign in Mortal Kombat and the Injustice games is incredible. Like, they really have something special. They really pay attention to making the story fun and fun to enjoy as a story, but also to play through and to give you the choice as you go match to match, like shifting perspectives between characters. Like, it's just such a video game situation that I'm happy exists, because fighting games used to just be, you play the arcade mode and you choose a character and then fight a bunch of things. Maybe you get midway through screen with a bunch of text explaining some story, and then at the end you definitely get that. But then that would kind of be it, and then it's rinse and repeat playthrough as the different characters. NetherRealm treats it differently. They really kind of go above and beyond, and in a way similar to Smash Brothers, just going above and beyond with different elements, but making these fighting games really special. So shout out to them on 12 million. Can't wait to see what they announce next. And 73 million for Mortal Kombat, making it the highest selling fighting game franchise of all time. Like, that's fantastic stuff. You know, I'm looking at these numbers that Daniel put here. I'm surprised that Tekken is above Street Fighter. admittedly not by too much, but 51 to 46 million. Like,
Yeah,
would
dude.
you have bet that?
E- I wouldn't have bet it. Like if you just gave me those two franchises, I would have just assumed Street Fighter. But I think when you think about just how good Tekken has been recently, and even versus Street Fighter, I know Street Fighter 5 is a very fine game, but Tekken 7 I think was just on another level in terms of how they executed it and how good it was and polished it was and refined it was. And Tekken, I think for the last few games has been on such a good roll in terms of quality that I would not be surprised if the last three Tekken games just sold astronomically based on how good they are. And then Street Fighter 5, PlayStation exclusive, which I'm sure held it back quite a bit in terms
Yeah.
of actual unit sales. But even still, like still it's still very impressive for Tekken to be above Street Fighter, and then also Mortal Kombat to be above Smash Brothers. Very impressive as well, because Smash Brothers kind of has the cheat code with it, right? Where it's that Nintendo first party, it is this huge crossover, it is accessible, anybody can get into Smash Brothers. For Mortal Kombat to straight up just exceed that, very impressive, and I think speaks to just the power of that franchise. It's why we still get Mortal Kombat movies. It's why Mortal Kombat is still a household name even after, like, to think about it in this way, right? That Mortal Kombat came out in 1992, and it came out and people flocked to it because it was this gory, edgy, different thing. Mortal Kombat was the game where you have fatalities, you can pull people's limbs apart, right? People would flock to it for that, and that felt very early video game. That felt very early 90s edge, new era kind of thing. The fact that Mortal Kombat started off as something that was very much of its time, and over the last I guess about wow 30 holy shit 30 years has remained and continued to get somehow even more and more popular. Very impressive. And Tim, I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of the quality that they put out with that game, in terms of the content in there, the story mode, making it accessible so that you can jump in and not feel like you have to play online to enjoy
Yeah.
the game, or feel like you have to play against friends. You can go in, play by yourself, play the ladders, have plenty of different modes to choose from, customize characters in the latest one. You have so many options in terms of what you want to do, and it is so good for that in a way that even I would say has influenced a lot of other fighting games. Because now when I went into Tekken 7, for example, and Tekken 7 has a story mode that you can play through, right? And would Tekken 7 have that if Mortal Kombat didn't do it before then? Who knows? Maybe not, right? Probably not. Even Dragon Ball Fighters had its own story mode, and Guilty Gear is when I hopped into and went to the story mode. Thought I was gonna fight at some point, and turned out it was just a long anime movie. But certain expectations in terms of content has been built because of Mortal Kombat in fighting games, which I think is a very impressive thing. It's monumental, and yeah, Mortal Kombat is just so good, and so
You know,
shout out to that.
with that too, it's like I think that people even with these numbers here, it's like I don't think people give Mortal Kombat enough credit for just how sheerly popular it is. Like when we were at IGN, it was always so surprising that from Mortal Kombat 9 on, so 9, 10, and 11, and in addition to Injustice, or
Yeah,
I wasn't there for Injustice, but Injustice 2,
yeah.
um, there was never more popular videos except for Smash Brothers ultimate character reveals and stuff.
Oh, dude,
Character reveals in Smash or Mortal Kombat were always the highest viewed video. Whenever one of those things would happen, the site would get traffic like it's an E3 week
mhm.
otherwise. And no other game could cause that level of like spike in video views and just like eyes on content about that thing. So it's like there's something there, man.
Dude,
Something
the NetherRealm,
extremely
they
special.
have the stuff. You talk about fatalities and how people will just go to YouTube to just watch fatality compilations. I scroll through TikTok and I'll happen across injustice introductions and character interactions because people stand that stuff so much now, because it's like on a nerdy level it's just fun to see, oh yeah, what happens when you match up Robin versus Starfire, like what is their character interaction like. People will go on
Mhm.
YouTube or go on TikTok and just check that stuff out, and I think that comes back to the fact that NetherRealm has the stuff, they know what they're doing, and there's a certain quality that they've built up in their experiences that now they're that studio that, which with every new release, I know I'm going to be there, and I know there's a built-in audience that is going to show up for any new NetherRealm game, even if they branch out from Mortal Kombat and Injustice. If they do make that theorized Marvel versus DC game, right? Like think about how many people are going to show up for that. Probably because that franchise crossover, but then also because it's NetherRealm and you know that they're going to do good. It's a thing, and so Again,
Mhm.
shout out to NetherRealm, but that's not all for video game sales numbers. This is story number 4. Death Stranding has sold 5 million copies on PS4 and PC. This is Christopher Dring at gamesindustry.biz. Death Stranding has sold through 5 million copies worldwide on PS4 and PC, developer Kojima Productions has said. Speaking to GamesIndustry.biz, head of publishing Jay Bohr says the game has performed quite well, and the studio is optimistic about the release of the director's cut on PS5 in September. Quote, with Death Stranding being the first title developed out of Kojima Productions, from a sales perspective, it has performed quite well, he says. As of March 2021, Death Stranding has sold through over 5 million units worldwide on PS4 and PC, end quote. As revealed last month, the upcoming director's cut does more than just some visual improvements with new features, weapons, and modes, while the game's central social strand feature has also been improved. Bohr continues, quote, Hideo Kojima once said in an interview, quote, I'm very prone to loneliness. I think there are similar people around the world, especially gamers. When they're alone playing video games in their living room, they don't feel like they fit into society or their community. So when people play this game, they realize people like them exist all over the world. Knowing that even though I'm lonely, there are other people like me. There are other people like me, and that makes you feel at ease. That's what I want people to feel when they play this game, end quote, which I think is a very sweet sentiment from Hideo Kojima.
I love that he's been tweeting a lot more recently. It's just great.
Oh yeah. He's wonderful to follow. And then some more tidbits. Bohr says that the core Kojima Productions team hasn't changed significantly since the game has launched, although obviously the way it operates has been transformed. Quote, although we've expanded slightly in a few operational areas, our team overall has relatively stayed the same in terms of actual size. In terms of how we operate, though, the studio has changed significantly as the pandemic brought many unforeseen challenges. Like everyone else, we have to constantly adapt and look at how we continue to work and build things safely. End quote. Very impressive. The 5 million number. I think it's essentially impressive because it's one, a brand new IP from a brand new team, right? Technically, when you talk about Kojima Productions, but then also just for how weird of a game it is, the fact that people still showed up for it because of Hideo Kojima and because I think Death Stranding is a pretty good game, right? Like the fact that people would show up for it for all that, very impressive with the 5 million number.
I mean, that number is insane. Like for some context there, like really thinking about it, it was a console exclusive, right? So it's like you're missing out on that entire Xbox sales base. And on top of that, 5 million plus copies. Like when you compare that to Metal Gear Solid games, I'm looking now, and granted, these numbers can be a little bit out of whack because they don't necessarily include like PSN versions of Metal Gear Solid 1 or whatever, but I doubt those are adding up to millions of copies. But let's add some pluses to it just to see. So starting with Metal Gear Solid 1, we're at 7 million plus copies sold. Metal Gear Solid 2, 7.5 million, making it the highest selling Metal Gear Solid game. MGS3 at 4.4 million plus. Then we go to Metal Gear Solid 4 at 6 million plus.
Wow.
I'm surprised about that, but
yeah.
Hell yeah. And then a couple of the spinoffs, Metal Gear Solid 5, 7 million plus. That's 7 million plus. That also, though, includes Metal Gear Solid 5 on all the consoles it was released, which included PS4 and Xbox One. It was a truly cross-gen game for last generation passing, right?
Yeah.
And it also included Ground Zero sales. So, and that was 1 million plus. So, all in all, Death Stranding, that is extremely impressive sales numbers, like that are right in line with Metal Gear Solid across every console.
That's actually really impressive and really shocking, and I think just speaks to the fact that Kojima has the stuff now. Like he really does have that name where if you attach it to a game, people will flock to it because they know Kojima as a director and as a character. And I think, of course, some of that combined with PlayStation first party push probably adds a little bit to that juice too. But yeah, Kojima could release another game right now and it'll still sell millions and millions of copies, which is a thing that very few game directors can say about their own name being attached to a game, which is very impressive. And so go get him, Death Stranding. Looking forward to the director's cut.
Yeah. Real quick, Lotus Chief in the chat says, these numbers always have me thinking exclusives don't matter. It's interesting because you can kind of paint a story either way with that, right? Like looking at, and granted, we're now talking about 1.5 generations ago with the PlayStation 3, but 6 million for Metal Gear Solid 4, a game exclusive only to the PlayStation 3. There was no other way to get that game. That is
Yeah.
insane, especially for the PlayStation 3, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
that isn't the system that Sony was winning, right? Like that wasn't the PlayStation 4 with its insane install base and all this. So I think that there is a narrative there. And again, things have changed and we're in a different place, but still Death Stranding is a console exclusive, like
Oh yeah.
currently. And I think it probably will remain that way. But for it to sell that much, that's extremely, extremely impressive.
Story number 5, Tim, we have some review roundups. Let's start with Neo, The World Ends With You. As of the time I grabbed this information, it is sitting at an 82 on Metacritic. I'm pulling from CJ Anderson at Destructoid. They gave it an 8 and said, Neo, The World Ends With You is a sequel worth waiting for. It brings together many of the best concepts from the DS original, but in a more approachable and accessible experience. It may lack the lightning in a bottle genius of its predecessor, but the 40 plus hours I spent exploring Shibuya showed me this world doesn't have to be complicated to be worthwhile. And then Rebecca Valentine at IGN gave it a 7 out of 10 and said, Neo, The World Ends With You is a sequel that leans heavily on recapturing what made the original so special. That's to its benefit in some ways, such as its vivacious depiction of Shibuya, its incredible soundtrack, and its stylish, flowing combat system, but to its detriment in others. Its story satisfies me as someone who has been waiting 14 years for answers to The World Ends With You's most tantalizing plot threads, but it pays for that resolution by sidelining its new central cast and forgoing a hard-hitting emotional story of its own. Tim, I don't recall. Are you a World Ends With You person? Were you looking forward to this game?
I played it back on the DS. It never hit with me the way that it should have, given all the elements going into it. Very Kingdom Hearts-esque, real Japan, hip hop influence, like that kind of like Tokyo subculture. But yeah, or urban culture. Yeah, it did. For some reason, it just never really hit that level for me. So this is kind of hitting exactly where I expected it to. And I read some of the reviews this morning, and I was reading Imran's review actually at Fandom, and he was kind of saying that like this game doesn't. Oh, sorry. Yes, Fanbyte doesn't necessarily like do a good job of serving the audiences of fans of the original or new fans, and it kind of just like meets in the middle somewhere. But that's cool. I'm shocked that this exists and that they actually did a sequel so many years later.
Yeah, I want to check it out because I'm with you that when I look at the game stylistically, it is a game that should speak to me. It has kind of a Persona 5 meets Jet Set Radio kind of style to it, which is my jam. And so like I want to check it out for sure. But 82 on Metacritic, that's a good score. And so I definitely I think this is one to look into, especially if one, it speaks to you stylistically, or if you're a fan of the original game on DS. More for a review roundup, though. We got The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Right now on Metacritic, it's sitting at an 88, which is very impressive. I'm going to pull just one review from Melindy Hetfeld at Eurogamer, who recommends it and says, The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles is a lovely bundle, which, like many a spinoff, suffers from not being quite as great as the original you immediately compare it to. Regardless, there is so much to love here. It tries some new things, setting and gameplay wise. It makes enjoyable references, and I just consistently enjoy Shu Takumi's writing, no matter what he puts out. The historical setting could prove to be a bit of a niche interest to many, but rather than contort myself and tell you that this is just like the Ace Attorney you know and love, or call it a prequel or a great way to start the series, which it isn't, I'd rather give it to you straight and say, do you love a good period drama? Have at it. So there you go. This is one that, as I've been scrolling through Twitter this morning, I saw quite a few people had good things to say about it. I think this is another Imran cut too, where he was enjoying it. And so if you're an Ace Attorney fan, this sounds like one you should definitely check out. Last news story for you. Story number 6. PS Plus games for August were revealed early, it looks like. This is Tom Ivan at Video Games Chronicle. August 2021's PlayStation Plus games have been revealed. The upcoming editions were confirmed on the official PlayStation website, perhaps ahead of schedule, rather than in a PlayStation blog announcement, as is usually the case. August PlayStation Plus games are Plants vs. Zombies Battle for Neighborville for PS4, Tennis World Tour 2 for PS4, and then Hunter's Arena Legends PS5 only. They'll be available to download from August 3rd. And if you remember, Hunter's Arena Legends was one that was in the most recent PlayStation State of Play Battle Royale game, melee based. Looks interesting enough that I'm going to check it out on PS Plus, give it a try. maybe play 2 matches, see how I feel about it. But Tim, August 3rd is
Hmm.
just so far away. If I want to know what's coming out to mom and drop shops today, where'd I look?
The official list of upcoming software across each and every platform, as listed by the Kind of Funny Games Daily Show host each and every weekday.
Do 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Out today, we got Pets No More for Switch, and then Intravenous for PC. New dates for you: Draft of Darkness, a survival horror deck building game releasing in early access, is coming the 30th of July. And then Assassin's Creed Valhalla's Siege of Paris expansion will be releasing on August 12th, 2021. We also have a deal of the day for you. This comes from Wario64. Now on Xbox Game Pass for console, you can get Blinks the Time Sweeper and Crimson Skies High Road to Revenge. And so if you're a classic Xbox fan, it's looking like a good day for you with Xbox Game Pass right there.
I love it. This is once again one of the big values of Xbox's ecosystem and what they've built. I love that they're continuing to go back to what started it all. Quality aside, sometimes when it comes to things, I'm not going to throw any shade at any cats in particular here. But what I will say is I love that Xbox does such a great job taking old games, modernizing them with FPS boost and all the, nicer resolutions, like all that stuff. And then also Game Pass, making it free, making it available to people just to try out. I can tell you for sure, I'm going to pop into Crimson Skies for at least 20 minutes to just remember how much I enjoyed that game at a moment in time. I would love a new Crimson Skies. I really think they could do something special with that type of gameplay nowadays. Like that really was the, at that point, next gen answer to Star Fox 64 type gameplay in a more open world type or open air type situation. But yeah, I doubt it's going to be enjoyable enough to fully play through.
Well, that's my favorite thing about Xbox Game Pass and them having like what Xbox does with legacy titles is for me, it's always usually I got 30 minutes to spare. I'm bored and I'm feeling kind of freaky right now. Let's play some Crimson Skies. You know what I mean? Like I've now been doing it for Perfect Dark a lot, where I've been playing Perfect Dark, the original for N64 via Rare Replay for maybe the last 7 months. Just every now and then I feel like getting in there.
There's a mission.
Doing a mission.
Where's Zelda's at?
And it's like, why not? Because it's there. Nothing stopped me from playing it, and I have a good time playing it. And so I always love that. And fun anecdote as well. Like, I don't know if you remember, Tim, back in the day, being young, right, and having one console, but then having a friend that has another console and going over to their house and being like, "What is it?" Blinks the Time Sweeper is one of those games where, growing up, I had a PS2. My next door neighbor, who I was good friends with, had an Xbox, and I was probably like 8 years old at this time. But like I would go over to his house to play games all the time because he had all these games that I didn't own, or just different games. And so I'll play like he introduced me to Battlefront. He introduced me to quite a few other games. But he busted out this game, Blinks the Time Sweeper, and I remember seeing him start to play it and going, "What the fuck is this game? This game seems like just weird and different. It has a different vibe. Like visually, it didn't look like a PS2 game. There was something about it that I was like, yo, this is different."
You're nailing it. It looks like an Xbox game, like an OG Xbox game. There is a very specific look that system had, that it was like still so tied. I mean, ironically, it was so tied to being a PC game. Like I feel like every Xbox game had this like PC game aesthetic to it, but it was on console. And we've now come full circle with that, where they've kind of met in the middle in a different way, and then kind of pushed each other to grow, where modern consoles and PC are closer than ever. But it's like now we just think of that as like this like high graphical thing. But like we just didn't really have 3D platformers on PC. But Blinks was one, but it was designed and looked like a PC game. I know that sounds fucking crazy for me to say, but if you were there during that time, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because I just remember watching him play this game and going, I don't know what it is, but this game is different. I was 8 years old, so I was just like, what the fuck? Why the fuck is this game so weird and different from like the shit I play on my PS2? It had
so
energy
funny.
to it.
I don't want to go on too long about this. Maybe we'll talk more in the post show. But real quick, I just want to say I love the different feel that every console has. Like I love that you can, not 10 out of 10 times, but for the most part, you can look at 4 seconds of a video clip, or even hear like 4 seconds with audio and video, and be able to be like, oh, that was the Xbox version of that game, or that was the GameCube, or that was the PS2, just because they had like, especially when it comes to exclusives, Like there was looks, when you compare the N64 to the PlayStation to the Saturn, it's like the Saturn always had more of a square look. The PlayStation had more of a triangle look, and the N64 had like a smushed circle look. You know what I'm talking about? And I sound crazy saying that,
no,
but you feel me though.
Especially during that generation too, where working off of different architectures, there's something about the Jaggies on PS1 that really sticks out versus just like the smushed polygons that you get on the N64 that makes both those consoles just seem way differently. And so I totally feel what you're talking about. But for now, Tim, let's move over to kindoffunny.com/you're wrong, where folks can write in as we do the show. They can write in and let us know what we got wrong as we got it wrong, so we can correct it for those who are watching later on YouTube and listening later on podcast services around the globe. We only have a couple of your wrongs coming in from the nanobiologist. He writes in and say, Red's starter in the manga was a Poliwag named Polly. It evolved into a Poliwrath to save Red's life. His full team. I don't want to spoil the manga. I'm sure somebody out there is like, yo, wait, no, I want to read the Pokemon manga, and so
it's called Pokemon Adventures, and it is fucking fantastic.
And then Nano also says, sorry, what was that, Kevin?
I was just trying to egg you on to spoil it.
Should I spoil Red's full team?
No, just go check it out if you want to check it out. It's really cool, though. Dude, check it out. It's cool.
Nano said Tim's right about Arbok getting cut in half, speaking of spoilers, but it was Blue possessed by a Ghastly owned by Koga who cut the Arbok.
See what I'm saying? This shit gets crazy, man.
Jesus. And then Kebab says that the Saturn felt square because it used square polygons. The PS1 felt triangular because it used triangular polygons. Yes. So there you go. There you go. A quick lesson in geometry for you, everybody. It's Monday, which means we have a full week ahead of us in terms of hosts. This week hosts go like this. Tomorrow is Greg and Gary Whitta. Wednesday, it's me and Tim. That's right. We're back at it like a bad habit. Thursday is Greg and Tim. And then on Friday, it's Greg and me. If you're watching this live right now on Twitch, after this is Mike and Nick playing some police stories. If you want to catch that stream later, you can subscribe to youtube.com/kindoffunnyplays, our third YouTube channel. Remember, this has been Kind of Funny Games Daily, each and every weekday live right here on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. We run you through the nerdy news you need to know about. We have a Patreon post show for those that are subbed at the silver level of patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. So stick around for that. Otherwise, till next time, Game Daily.